boys, race number 6 on the card. The Campbell Infrastructure Rotorua Cup, Group 3 over the 2,200 metres here, Steve, and a dominant favourite and a deserving dominant favourite.
Yep, the conditions of the race, Cinerama probably the best in terms of that up and down the country, or where she's placed with the handicap, etc. $2 even money. That is her opening quote, and she's been well played. In front of leaderboard, so overall punters very keen at the point end of the market. Leaderboard clearly the second best bat runner. You could almost say really does match dollar for dollar v Cinerama thus far. $5.50 into $4.20, so a decent firm around the Mark Walker train galloper. Big Mike, something had to give, just out half a turn, $5.50 to $6. A Rising Storm, 10 out to 11. A Roger That, 13 out to 15. Hurricane, 18 out to 21. Super Sid, 18 out to 21. Best of the rest is Merida Lane, also a drifter at a $26 quote. So a number of horses have eased on the warm support, firstly on 2, holding its quote, but also number 7, $5.50 into $4.20.
Okay, before we go to Pops, is he going to try and talk us into Big Mike, Paul?
Oh, I hope he's got the T-shirts.
BP, Rotorua Cup, where are we going?
Yeah, they're at the factory. They're at the factory there, Paul. The Big Mike T-shirts. We may not have too many chances to wear them. Of course, retirement looms for Big Mike. Look, this is going to be a big ask for him, though, isn't it? Look, this is a race where he's compressed the weights, and it just means that Cinerama gets him beautifully, doesn't she? With a horse that is at 53.5 kilos. He has to carry 61. I mean, some of his good victories, I know he's carried 60 kilos in a benchmark race out of Tarapa, but the other times that he's been able to carry weight, they've been able to take weight off with Aaron Layton, Hazel Chauffeur, and of course most recently Alan Leckless claiming that weight relief to be able to help him out, where that's not the case for this race in the Rotorua Cup. So that just makes it a little bit tougher for him, doesn't it, in Big Mike? He'll give a sight. We know where he's going to be. We know what he's going to do. It's just down to Cinerama having the prospect of a very good run in the race with a light weight, and we know what she's done. Her record speaks for itself too, doesn't it, around Cinerama. Leaderboard, fair dinkum, the switch has just been flicked on here with leaderboard, hasn't it? And hearing from Sam Burgesson throughout the week that they've popped him over a few logs, and that's all seemed to have sparked him up. He was very good in the Hawke's Bay Cup when running into second position, when beaten by Swords Drawn. He was very good the week prior to that as well, when winning out of Trentham over the distance of 2,600 metres. So he has to be a very big danger in the race with the form that he's in currently. He's just found that piece of form that we've been probably looking for the last 2 years with leaderboard. So he becomes a really big danger. Then the field starts to fall away, doesn't it, after those 3 particular runners that we've mentioned in terms of their class and quality that they do bring to the race. So look, at this stage, I hate betting against Big Mike, but this could be one step too far maybe for him in terms of how the race sets up for him with the weight that he has to carry with Cinerama, just maybe having that chance of running him down late. Yeah,
I remember last year Pops had a big weight in a Rotorua Cup as well and dropped out, but I guess he's got a different track to contend with this year. I think it was heavier this time last year.
That's right, and he doesn't like it heavy. He really doesn't. No. I mean, he got through it through some of those races as a younger horse, but really once we start getting beyond sort of 7 or 8 in the pentrometer reading is where he doesn't really like it. So even though there's a heavy record there, when you look at it, that's purely with what he's done as a younger horse, and he dropped out in the race last year. So what is it, soft 6 I think at the moment. So that's bang on where that's in the sweet spot, at least in that 4-5-6 zone.
Yeah, okay. Paul, what are your initial thoughts here? I see leaderboard's trimmed up, a little bit of a point. Nice push early for leaderboard.
It is trimmed up, but I think the boys have got it right. Cinerama, she just gets in so well at the weights with Big Mike at the top there. So only 53.5 kilos for Cinerama.
Really? Yep.
She didn't give up in the Travis last start either. Recorded the fastest last 200-metre split as well. Only just missed in the Manawatu Breeders, probably because of an absolute sterling ride by Woodamoo Pin on, I think it was Charm Star, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A lovely win in the Cuddle. Yes, just all points towards Cinerama for me.
Yeah, well, what do you think about the $2 then in saying that? I'm happy.
It'll be in a number of multis on Saturday. It will indeed.
A number of your multis.
Indeed, yes.
Okay, I think you're very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Interesting one, Steve. I mean, she does look awfully well placed, Cinerama, $2. Look, it looks about the right price in fairness, because that market's, they're just chipping away, aren't they?
Yeah, I priced her at a 46% chance, so you're not getting too much of a GST at the $2 mark. When they're that short, and you look at Cinerama, because she does have the odd floor throughout her career, and you're kind of working out what's the negative around her heading into this race, and she's jumping a lot better. We've seen that last 4 to 5 starts where she's had a couple of wins at black type company, so I think that's a tick. I don't think that's a negative coming into the race. Her manners out of the machine. You could argue, is 2,200 a negative? I don't think so, but there will be plenty of people thinking it is.
Yeah,
and that's a fair call. That's a fair call, because hasn't won at that trip yet. Saying that, pedigree, no knock.
Out of an Auckland Cup winner.
Auckland Cup winner. I look at the 2-2, and you look at back in her last run in the Travis over 2,000 metres at Te Rapa, and again, it was a race that was dominated by on speed, even though they went above par to the 600 metre mark, won by 2 illicit. Again, it favoured on speed runners purely on how the bias was playing at Te Rapa. She did run home the fastest last 200 metres of the race, just a tick over 12 seconds, suggests that 2,200 shouldn't be a drama.
Okay.
I'm looking again. The key around this race, she's drawn barrier 1. We're talking race 6, so we're going to have 5 races obviously played before this race. Let's just see how the track's playing. I think if you want to back Cinerama, just play the patient game. She's drawn the 8s. You know she's going to be back probably no forward the midfield. The only negative I could find around Cinerama, and it's not the distance, it's not her barrier manners, it's how the track's playing. She could be stuck along the rail, maybe worse in midfield, somewhere in that neutral position. We saw at the meeting a few weeks ago, they're coming down the centre of the track at the back end of the program. I know it's a soft 6, there's the odd shower forecasted on race day. I don't think it will come to much, but I think at the back end of the program, they will be coming off the rail, and that's the only negative I can find around Cinerama BP. Is that a concern when you're diving into the even money?
Yep. I think it's a good point, Stephen. And with the luxury of looking at 5 races beforehand, I mean, yes, we are previewing the meeting the day beforehand, but as you said, if you wanted to have a true bet, well, you've got the chance to assess conditions, see if it's rained at all, the night before, look at the first 5 races, and if you feel like it's pretty happy with where the inside is, the horses are holding the rail position, the horses are coming up the rail, or whatever's happening in terms of how the pattern is for the day, you can make that assessment after looking at a few races there. So, I mean, she is the class act, isn't she? She is a horse who brings the right form lines. Yep, there is that little red flag around the distance, but I think her breeding will really kick in there to be able to help her out. She should get a soft run in transit. What I will say about Big Mike too, he is a horse that is capable of running with those big weights too. You know, like he's been able to carry 60 kilos, 59 kilos, 60.5 kilos in some of those races that he's been able to win or go very close in. So the fact that he has to carry 61, I don't think is too much of an issue for him. It's just the case that he has to concede so much weight to his rivals. That's going to be the killer for him, isn't it? Is that, you know, when he has to concede weight to a horse like Cinerama, who's a great Group 1 place getter, even Roger That, who's won an Auckland Cup and run 4th in the most recent Auckland Cup as well, who's got 53.5 kilos, a St. Leger winner in leaderboard. So that's where it comes from, doesn't it? That you have to weigh that up with Big Mike, is that he's got 61, he can carry it, but just how much of an effect is it going to have in the last couple of 100 metres of this race when those lightweight horses are trying to run him down?
Yeah, okay. We've talked about leaderboard before, Steve, suggesting it's a little bit of a one pace. You know, probably wants to try and make a bit of a staying test from barrier 4, get out early and try and challenge Big Mike maybe, but his runs have been very good the last 2, particularly the last one. I know it was a second.
He's a horse that loves genuine tempo. When he's been found out, and what a lot of our staying races can be is sit and sprint affairs. Maybe not so much handicap, but definitely weight for age. But he's been running in handicap races. You go back to St. Leger, up to the 600 metre mark, it was 25 lengths above par. They've gone enormous up to the 600 metre mark. It really did set it up for leaderboard. He was probably the best 1 or 2 horses in the field, but he had the right race shape to suit. You go back last start, Hawke's Bay Cup, went out 16 lengths above par to the 600. And again, he showed his best leaderboard. So he needs genuine tempo. Look, Big Mike's going to make it at least even tempo. I thought the enigma in terms of the speed and the map is Peso, who's drawn barrier 12. Jasmine Fawcett does the riding here. I think they've probably got no option but to go forward. Peso. He's had a couple of jump outs and trials leading into the race. We've probably seen the best of him. He's at a $51 shot, so he's not guaranteed too much of a winning chance here. But just purely on the map, he's one horse that could put pressure on Big Mike, 1-2 in the map, and maybe in terms of race shape, go above tempo. But yeah, the leaderboard's generally a horse that bounces out of a hard, strong, fast run race, and you see the best of him purely because he's probably the best stayer in the race.
Okay. Paul, got anything down the page here? Anything down your dance card? I'm peering over trying to see your cheat sheet here. Anything down the page that we need to be including here?
It's really, really hard to look outside of the top of the market.
You're big on Cinerama, yeah.
And leaderboard, but look, I thought because, look, not the flashes of strike rates out of the Ralph Manning stable. Ashwin going to Sam, he jumps on. I just thought that Wellington Cup run probably took a wee bit more out of him than they probably hoped, and it's taken him a while to just get back. Yep. But I just think at Rotorua, maybe he gets a nice, easy sort of run, peels out as we come around the turn.
Yep.
What, currently around $31? If I was looking elsewhere,
no, not suggesting.
I'm not actually looking elsewhere because I quite like the look of Cinerama. Yeah. And as BP said, that's no slight on Big Mike either.
No.
But if I was going to have a little each way go somewhere else, Ralph Manning and B-Cause.
Yeah, okay. So you'd be all in here as Cinerama win, would you?
Yeah.
Basically, for your betting tactics.
SP? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it going that way, or will it come?
What will it
I
do
can't
late?
see it drifting too much, just with the conditions of the race, the overall profile on the horse. It is a thin race if you want to shop outside the top three, and a lot of people will take a set against Big Mike. As popular as he is with that weight, they will be taking a slight set against him. So again, you're looking at two horses. I just can't see Cinerama drifting too much from even money.
Yeah, okay. Paul's with the favourite. BP, where did you settle in this year's Rotorua Cup?
Look, I'll give you a bet here in the race, and it's a way to be able to keep the faith with Big Mike. He's paying $2 to run a place. Now, there is a likelihood that he might even push out to that 220, 250 zone. Now, Cinerama's paying $2 to win the race. Here you've got 3 opportunities of trying to cash in on a horse that will be in front. And I reckon that $2 price could move and move outwards. I'd be happy to run that through a few multis, to be honest with you, at around that 220 mark, 250 if you got to that type of zone. So that's where I'll be looking. I think Cinerama is clearly the horse that we're all looking out for, and $2 tells you that, and the record she has. I think the other horse we need to be very wary of is maybe Rising Storm. The Soprano Supreme form, as we saw on Saturday, just gone out of the Gold Coast. It certainly franks, doesn't it, with how that horse ran last week. This horse ran second behind Soprano Supreme at this venue, beaten 2.5 lengths, and there was a good margin back to the rest of them in that race. So it's a horse who narrowly won last time to the races out of Pukekohe. Gets in well at the weights at 53 kilos as a chance that could be one of those little lightweight upset chances, a must for trifectas and first falls if we're trying to look away from those top 3.
Yeah, okay. Nice Rising Storm. He couldn't get away from Big Mike in the end, Paul. Top 3 Big Mike, that's his bet.
Rightly so.
No, you can't blame him.
Very happy with that.
You can't blame him.